Do you remember when you learned how to read? It's a question that often stirs up a whirlwind of memories, each unique and personal. For some, it was a beloved teacher patiently guiding them through the alphabet, while for others, it was a parent or grandparent who made story time magical. The moment we first recognized a printed word can feel like a rite of passage, opening the door to countless adventures and knowledge. Imagine navigating the world without the ability to read. This is a daunting reality for many, many more than we realize in our society. Today, we're diving deep into this pivotal experience with our special guest, Mélanie Valcin from the United for Literacy Foundation. Mélanie has some incredible and inspiring stories of those who have transformed their lives through literacy and what it has meant for them in terms of daily functioning and personal well-being. We'll get into how gaining reading skills not only empowers individuals. When people can read, they can access better job opportunities, contribute more effectively to their communities, and ultimately drive economic growth. You'll be amazed at how something as fundamental as reading can shape destinies and transform futures. We're also going to talk about how you can make a difference in the vital effort to raise literacy across Canada and have a lot of fun at the same time.
This is the Insight is Capital podcast.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the individual guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of advisoranalyst.com or of our guests. This broadcast is meant to be for informational purposes only. Nothing discussed in this broadcast is intended to be considered as advice.
Mélanie, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Pierre.
Looking forward to this conversation. Before we get started, please tell us a little bit about your background, the arc of your career, and how you got inspired to get involved in United for Literacy in the first place.
With pleasure. So you might be a little bit shocked to learn that I've been working with this wonderful organization for 23 years.
Wow.
So I started, yes, Pierre, I started as a Quebec and Nunavut manager back in 2002, and progressively through a lot of learning, a lot of experimentation, worked my way up to the CEO role that I now have now occupied for the or held for the past 3 years. So it's an immense privilege to be working for an organization that is making such a huge difference across the country, literally coast to coast to coast, bringing literacy supports to individuals, families, and communities who need and want to improve their literacy skills.
Amazing. I can't help thinking that this is something that we just completely take for granted and, don't give the thought that it deserves, because it's something that, as I said at the beginning, do you remember when you learned how to read? And most people don't. Most people don't remember the actual learning process that they went through. Someone can tell them about it. You can recall your memory. You can have your memories recalled by the people around you when you were 2, 1, 2, 3 years old and started to first, read. But, we don't remember, right? We don't remember when we first learned to read unless we learned as an adult. Of course, that's what we're going to talk about today. But what is literacy? And why is it important?
Yes. Pierre, I love it that you say we don't remember or we take this for granted. We take our literacy skills for granted, and that it's so true. In a lot of circles, we are surrounded by people that are, in my circle in any case, and maybe in yours, I'm assuming in yours, we are surrounded by people who have higher education, who have had a lot of supports to be able to continue to progress through their learning of reading. And then they were able to have great reading skills that allowed them to then learn to read to learn about the world that surrounds us. So what is literacy, actually? That's a good question. So literacy, it's the ability to understand the printed word and to put it to use in our daily life, and also in this and to be able to decode this world around us that is more and more or increasingly technologically rich, right? The official definition of literacy has been provided to us by UNESCO, and basically they're saying that it's all about identifying, understanding, interpreting, and creating in this very text-mediated, increasingly digital world, and in this fast-changing world, it's important to understand that, at United for Literacy, what we're including in this definition of literacy is also financial literacy, as UNESCO says, digital skills. I think that second language as well, or third or fourth languages are also part of the skills that are needed to succeed in life, at school, or at work, right? So this is a very important skill that is extremely important, even more important in these fast-changing times. And they're important because literacy is really intertwined with success at school, as I said earlier, but also it equates to good health, to employment. People who have higher literacy skills usually report that they have higher income and they have access to more opportunities in general.
It's second nature for for those of us who can read. I feel like people who are suffering from a literacy deficit tend to hide it really well with coping mechanisms and other methods, and you could get away with a literacy deficit for a very long time. And we know, I'm sure there's a lot of evidence to show that there's a lot of people in society who who have managed to somehow hide the fact that they don't know, that they don't have literacy skills, either any or some.
Yes, Pierre, I'm going to start by saying that literacy is measured on a 5-point scale, from 0 to 5, actually. And we have data from Stats Canada, which is coming from a bigger international study that is conducted every 10 years to bring to measure literacy levels in the OECD countries. And we have the chance, the latest results were just released last December. So we have very current data right now on the literacy levels of Canada. And I think your audience will be shocked when I let them know that 19% of Canadian adults, so almost 1 out of 5 Canadian adults, is struggling to read a simple sentence. So that's 1 out of 5, 20%. Yeah,
that's astonishing.
That's it. We're thinking, where are these people? Who are these people?
That's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy to think about it because of the social systems that we supposedly have in place. How did 19% of the population fall through the cracks?
So there's several reasons why people could be at level 0, 1, or 2 of literacy in this country. We have, for example, the people we work with often are experiencing poverty. They might not have had the support they needed at home or even in school to succeed and learn to read properly and to continue to their primary or secondary education. We have people that are newcomer to the country and French or English is not their first or strong second language. We have people with disabilities as well, Pierre. So again, one adult age, 16 to 65 is struggling with reading and writing. And we also have, when you ask why, when we look at our kids today, we have one student or one child out of 8 in this country that is not reading at grade level. So those students that are not, or those children that are not getting support while they're in school will most likely end up in those lower levels of literacy when they become adults. And so that's the issue, that's the problem. There's many ways that we can fix it, and we can talk about that.
To put it in the right context, what has been the impact of literacy improvements in Canada on the Canadian economy? I think if we can quantify it, it definitely lends itself to understanding just how profound the benefits of literacy are.
If we look on the other side of the coin, we just identified the issue. If we were able to raise the levels of literacy of our Canadian workforce right now, or the Canadian adults, then where the economy will see major benefits. There's a lot of
Right.
studies that have come out in the last few years where, for example, we discovered that by increasing the literacy levels of Canadians by only 1%, will boost the productivity by 5%. Or again, if we increase this, again, literacy level by 1%, this is, it could create a GDP growth of more than $50 billion. So the return on investment on literacy is humongous for the Canadian economy and our society as a whole.
Yeah, that's with a B. That's over $50 billion in annual increase in GDP.
Exactly.
When I saw that, I know I'm asking you about it, but I had to do the background as well. And when I saw that, I was astonished by the the return, on the investment of literacy.
Exactly.
How
And
massive
when we
it
look
is.
at the size of our debt, Pierre, I'm thinking, hey, I have a way to fix it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we've got this poverty problem, which also is surprising in terms of being, and that's both here and in the U.S., but in Canada, surprisingly, we have a poverty issue, despite our social safety nets, that would be significantly reduced also, again, by an improvement in literacy.
For sure. Literacy leads to employment. I can't repeat it enough. It's a skill that is helping people to lift themselves out of poverty, not only through employment, because better skills lead to, better, higher level of education and then higher income and more stable employment. But it's also a question of literacy. Again, people who have higher literacy skills, so at the top levels of literacy, have better health, have better access to housing, have better access to a lot of government services as well. If we just take the example of having, all the services and even social safety net measures that are accessible through government, nowadays you can only access them, Pierre, through the internet, right? Through websites.
As you said, you have to be able to read what's on that screen in order to move forward.
Read and understand.
Right.
If you think of financial literacy as well, not only do you need to be able to understand numbers nowadays properly and then have access, as you say, to equipment and know how to use it, any kind of transaction that you want to do nowadays with government, to access resources, or with banks to be able to, manage your resources properly and keep them safe, for example. Yeah. It's all happening online nowadays. So it's getting, again, this is why we're talking about evolving skills. Literacy skills are, in a way, you could say, hey, AI is doing it all for you nowadays, or it's easy to hide it, as you were saying earlier, because if you have a lack of skills, or because you can use other means. But if we think about it, literacy skills are more important than ever to be able to actually handle or even deal with all this information that's coming to us, but also with all the different tools that we need to master in order to have access to resources or to manage our resources properly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of right at the bottom of that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, if you don't have that very basic building block satisfied, I mean, it makes life, I can only imagine it must make life incredibly difficult.
For sure, Pierre. And another thing that we've seen a lot is, right now we're very proud at United for Literacy. We've partnered with Elections Canada, because as we know, an election campaign's coming soon. And again, literacy is literacy levels are such a determinant in the ability of people to engage in an electoral process, to understand the information that they receive through different, again, platforms. But Also, yeah, there's a lot of studies that have linked literacy levels with civic engagement, which includes participating in elections and understanding again what it means and all the information that is coming towards people. So we are right now partnering, as I said, with Elections Canada to help promote some of the resources that they have for folks that have lower literacy skills and that would like to be involved and to understand everything. So we're using resources to raise the awareness, if I can say, and to promote engagement as well.
I can't help thinking that it must be incredibly, satisfying work for you to see and to know the outcome. I mean, and to see it happen, in front of your eyes as well, because it's something that's so that you could actually be there at the moment when somebody has that epiphany, that moment when their eyes are open and they wake up and they realize, wow, I can actually read this and I can actually understand it.
So many stories I could tell you, Pierre, where I saw that moment where suddenly it clicked. I think we have to also see that, like, acquiring literacy skills, it is a lifelong kind of process. But yes, there's always a click at some point when you work with a learner. I'm thinking, for example, of a man. His name was Patrick, and he was working in northern Quebec at a mine, iron mine. And his dream was to become a supervisor of a team, right? So we had an instructor at the plant there at the mine working for 6 months with some of the employees to help them raise their literacy level. And this particular person, after a few weeks, we realized had never touched a computer, put a laptop in front of him, start working with him slowly. And in about 6-7 weeks, mastered Excel. It was maybe too many colors, everything in his table, but mastered Excel, was able to build schedules for, a team of workers that he could eventually supervise. Well, you know what? We learned once we got out of there a few months later that he had been promoted, and we saw the click when suddenly it was not that he didn't have the capacity to work with technology and to work with different apps to raised to another level in his organization. It was only that he hadn't had the opportunity. Or I'm thinking of Linda, another learner of ours, who at 36 years old, 2 children, had never held, had never worked, if I can say, outside of the home. She had a learning disability, came to us saying, I would like to create a resume, start to, practice doing interviews. And again, with a few months of work with one of our volunteer tutors, she gained the confidence. It's not just about understanding the work, the words and being able to put a CV together. It's also having the confidence to interact, to put words on a sheet to describe your profile, right? So she gained the confidence. We worked on her with her on a resume, and she was able to integrate the workforce for the first time of her life at 36 years old. So again, so many stories I could tell you of the way that literacy changes everything in someone's life, basically.
I in preparing for our conversation, I thought about the moment that I recall when my children, when it was self-evident to me that my children could read at the very first time, and that's why my point to you, which is that it must be very satisfying to do it every day, to be part of this process every day, where your organization is doing this work and organizing efforts around literacy, and so it must be just mind blowing at times, right?
I will say it's a privilege to be able to support people, learners, again, across the country through various programs. I have this in my blood, Pierre. Maybe I'll go back a little bit. You were talking
please.
about your parents, your children. I had a grandpa that was a coffee trader in Haiti, another grandpa that was a farmer in northern Quebec. And they both had less than grade 6 education, but understood how it was important that their children went to higher education.
Right.
So both my dad and my mom and their siblings on both sides were able to go to continue to go to school, even go to higher education, post-secondary. And then both my parents passed on this amazing knowledge, right? Of knowing, not only knowing how to read, but how to enjoy reading and how to, improve our reading skills just by having fun with words and with different games. So when it was time for me to choose a career and to choose an organization, I just followed the stream and decided to put my knowledge to service and to help others acquire literacy skills. And I'm not the only one in Canada, of course. There's a lot of organizations that are working hard to improve, to help people improve their skills. The people that I'm most amazed by are the thousands of volunteers that have joined us over the last 10 years to give back in their community and to get involved in our organization to help other people in their community, increase their skills. So we recruit a lot of volunteers every year, around 1,500, 1,600. We train them, we recruit them, train them, and support them for them to help us deliver on our mission. And these are the people that, we couldn't do our work without them. It's been amazing to see this major mobilization for literacy across the country over the years.
Reading, I mean, to your point, I think, just to circle back to your point about confidence, you can see where somebody who is coping with a literacy deficit is presented with an opportunity and then says, no, that's not for me, or I don't want to do that. And really the reason is, I can't do that, or I'm afraid to do that. But once they've acquired, a literacy level that gives them that confidence, it's life-changing. How does United for Literacy help improve literacy rates in Canada? Like, what are some of your programs and initiatives that you carry out?
Yes, so we've been around for a while, United for Literacy, a good 125 years. So over those 125 years, we've really been able to adapt to create literacy solutions, if I can say, or literacy programs that are adapted to the times and the needs and the priorities of the era that we were working in, if I can say. And so we've been working with children, with youth, with adults in different ways. We really don't have a cookie cutter approach, Pierre. So what we do is that when we start working with a community or in a community, we usually conduct a needs assessment to see what are the skill gaps, where can we intervene, who else is in the vicinity, so that we don't duplicate efforts. There's so many needs, let's not duplicate efforts. So we usually conduct a needs assessment, and then together with the community or the partner that we work with, we create or we design a literacy program or a literacy solution that will respond to the needs that are expressed to us. So, for example, you could be in Toronto, in Regent Park, and we are in Toronto and Regent Park, hosting a homework club for children that might not have the support they need at home, or have need special support because they might have difficulties with their reading, their writing, or their math. We will be also, so that'll look this way. We're going to be in Nunavut, for example, every summer, setting up in partnership with the local communities a literacy summer camp where kids will have fun, play soccer, do cultural activities and traditional activities that they would normally do during the summer. But every day we'll make sure that there's some reading, some writing, and play with words so that they don't lose their skills over the summer months. So that's another type of program that we deploy across the country, summer literacy camps. You'll find us in a plant or in a hotel, for example, in another province where we will have an instructor directly working with learners with workers in a hotel, so that, for example, the caretakers of the hotel are gain confidence and gain the skills if they're not from Canada or if they were not born in Canada, gain the language skills necessary to be safe at work, to understand all all the aspects, all the tasks that are necessary to accomplish their work well, and to make sure that they're able to interact with their supervisors, the customers. So we really make sure that our programs respond to local needs and are impactful. So we're partnering with shelters, detention centers, workplaces that I just mentioned, with schools also that are located in neighborhoods where there might be less support services.
I can't help thinking, how do you even begin to do this? When you come into a community where there's a literacy deficit that you can identify, how do you attract people to the program? I mean, I'm wondering, do people show up in groups, or is it more of a one-on-one type of a process where people come in and quietly tell you, I need help with this, and I'm struggling with that? And is it something that's happening on a community basis where people show up to a classroom, or is it more of a process where like I just described, where people come in and are more discreet because they're worried about what people will think or be judged?
For sure. So they
feel like they have to, right? I mean, they don't want to be judged, right? I mean, so that's a hurdle for you, isn't it?
So there's a few different ways, Pierre, that we reach our students or our learners, we call them. So first of all, I must say that we're not a brick and mortar organization. We have a head office in Toronto, but the majority of our activities and initiatives are carried out in community. So in the communities we serve. And as I was saying, usually to reach our learners, whether they're children, youth, adults, the way that we reach them mainly is through community partnerships. So when we get to a community or when we're established in a community, we establish partnerships and collaborations with organizations that are already reaching or serving the people who have literacy needs. So that creates a whole kind of wraparound approach, right? So we might be, again, working with a newcomer settlement agency that's giving, that's providing different resources to the people that are their beneficiaries. But we come in and we bring the second language programming, for example, or the literacy programming. We might be partnering with an Indigenous community in Northern Ontario to deliver a summer camp during the summer, so that kids are getting used to our programs. They're excited. So in 2013, we started working in partnership with different communities in Nunavut to carry out or roll out the summer literacy camps for the children. And so we developed a strong relationship with the government of Nunavut because they were seeing the impact of our work. And again, they kind of saw, we really like what United for Literacy is doing in partnership with our communities. There are other needs that are not met, such as the fact that back in 2017, there were very few or maybe even no apprentices that were locals, so that were Inuk in Nunavut. So the reason why there was no apprentices in the building trades is that in order to become an apprentice in Nunavut, you need to pass a trades entrance exam. And Pierre, let me tell you, the exam is pretty tough. So if you've been out of school for a while and you have on top of it to take it in English, and English is not your first language because you speak Inuktitut, it's a major barrier. I tried the exam myself, and again, pretty high level. So the government approached us and asked us if we would be willing to, co-create with them a program where we could tutor and instruct their pre-apprentices so that they would be able to have the knowledge to pass the exam. And we started doing that in 2017. And a few years later, now it's year 7 or year 8 in, we have every year people that are now passing the entrance exam. Once you become an apprentice, your salary doubles. And once you become a journey person, then the sky's the limit. But I'm just saying this, giving you this example as an example of a very, of the impact the word can have. Passing an exam can really bring you a higher salary and higher employment possibilities, right? So we love this partnership that we have with the government of Nunavut. And now it's morphed into also a literacy program that we have set up in the detention centers of Iqaluit, so that when the men and women get out of detention, they have the skills to become an apprentice and or to enter the job market and do not fall into recidivism. Often, a lot of, in the building trades especially, a lot of the workers come from the south, they're on rotation, so salaries are paid to people from the south, and the money comes back down south, right, to feed families down here. There's nothing wrong with that. But first, can we make sure, can we also make sure that the local people are employed and have dollars and salaries to feed their own family and to benefit the entire communities? And also, people, because the needs are quite are pretty big. Once we have been able to reach a small pocket of population, word spreads out, and suddenly we'll have chief and council saying, but could you also deliver a financial literacy workshop to the adults or to the parents of the community? That would be something that would be of interest to us. So we usually do not enter a community until we're invited. So whether it's an urban, rural, or remote community, people usually come to us and say, hey, could you also try to do this for us? So this is how, for example, I wanted to talk about those the financial literacy resources that we've developed. This is how this came about. There was in Ontario, the Ministry of Education of Ontario was hearing many times that parents, through different sources, that parents, teachers wanted to have more resources to be able to train and help kids develop from a very young age skills in financial literacy. So it's actually the government of Ontario that came to us and said, United for Literacy, you are very much integrated in a lot of communities. You're kind of a
you're already doing the work.
Exactly. So could you also work with us to develop financial literacy resources that parents could use, also community workers could use to create fun, engaging, but also impactful financial literacy resources. And of course, we jumped on that task, and I'm very pleased to say that these resources have been very much used, but also they've been very much very useful from what we understand from our partners that have been using them and from the workshop that we've delivered.
What are some of the most basic things that you're encountering in financial literacy?
So Pierre, as you must know, when it comes to financial literacy, it's not one size fits all. Everyone has different levels of knowledge and understanding. But one thing is for sure, I'm pretty sure I would say that you have more understanding and knowledge than me, for example. But one thing is for sure is that the people that we work with are people that are at the lowest literacy levels, are also usually at the lowest literacy, the lowest financial literacy understanding, if I can say.
Right. Of course. I mean, yeah.
Yes. So when it comes to, if you're already having difficulties working with numbers or understanding numbers and basic operations, mathematical operations, it's going to be very hard to build a budget and to maintain a budget. It's going to be hard also to think of planning, for your future, for retirement. The whole notion also of credit. First of all, already you need to have access to credit. But if you have access to credit, it sometimes is difficult to understand for the majority of people how the interest rates work and on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, about all this fine print that I'm still struggling to understand myself. Imagine people who are struggling with words, numbers, and also, as I said earlier, with using the tools that are now very much necessary to manage finances nowadays, right?
What I got from your work in all the communities that you serve was that it's also very discreet. It's not as though you can, as an organization, you can advertise a course in literacy. No one's going to, most people who are suffering from literacy issues are not going to show up in groups. They're not, I can't see that they're likely to show up in groups, but if they can be approached in a community on a discrete one-on-one basis to work with a member of the community in your UFL community, it really requires a lot of hands. I mean, it really need. I mean, by the sounds of it, it requires a large number of people to realize this dream of raising literacy.
For sure. And yes, we are discreet, Pierre, but across Canada last year, we reached over 41,000 people. Through Amazing. 500 community partnerships, those fabulous other organizations that are doing such great work in communities and that are helping us to reach our learners and to support them. It takes a lot of hands. Like I said, a good 1,600 volunteers. We have a staff of over 100 people across the country. People that are also very important to us are all our donors, people that get involved by supporting us financially, so corporations and foundations, but also individual donors that understand how literacy changes everything and how by contributing financially to United for Literacy, they know that their dollar will have an impact on the life of someone, sometimes on an entire family, and sometimes on an entire community. So it takes a lot of effort, but it's worth it, especially if we think back of the impact that, again, raising literacy levels in this country could have on our economy as a whole, on our society. To me, if you ask me why am I so passionate for still 23 years in the organization, still passionate about this cause, it's because not only every day I see the impact of our work, but I also see on the long term how literacy is a motor for equity in our communities and for prosperity for all, for every Canadian, basically. So equity and prosperity, to me, equal higher literacy levels. So, but it's
yeah, it's not hard to understand why you're passionate about it. I can see where lots of folks would want to get involved and do participate and volunteer in this very satisfying work. One of the reasons we're here today, and that's to talk about how others can help support United for Literacy.
Yes, well, so
how our audience can help support United for Literacy.
There are many ways, Pierre, in which people can get involved as volunteers, of course, as a donor if they want to donate. Also, for your audience that is located in Toronto, we're actually hosting a great fundraiser for the benefit of literacy on March 5th, 2025. It's going to be at Arcadian Loft, downtown Toronto. It's going to be an evening. I always say, put your game on for literacy. It's a lot of fun. We've been doing this event for like 20 years and raised over $4 million through this event for literacy. So all the profits of the benefits or the profits, of the evening will go towards our programs across Canada. And so if you go to our website, you can find a way to register for the event. And it's called Game Night for Literacy. We play Scrabble, we play trivia, we play Taboo, different games categories, different games where we can through which we can compete, but also know that our competition will lead to literacy improvement for some folks. So if anyone in your audience is interested, they can go on our website or go to GameNightForLiteracy.ca.
We're going to put the link in the show notes, Melanie.
Wonderful.
And that as well.
And I hope I see you there, Pierre.
I'm going to be there. We'll be there.
Wonderful.
We will be there. I just wanted to mention the anchor sponsor for game night is CIBC.
Exactly.
This is an event you've been hosting since 2005.
Exactly.
And as you mentioned, you've raised $4.2 million since 2005, and you hope to raise a lot more than that going forward. Are you doing these events in other cities across Canada, or is it Toronto for now?
We're doing it with the financial sector of Toronto. So we are raising funds all across the country,
Right.
reaching out to donors. So if anyone's listening to us and cannot make it to the Arcadian Court event, please feel free to click on the donate button on our website. But yes, this event is happening in Toronto.
And is there a way for people, for our audience to volunteer?
For sure. So if you go to our website, unitedforliteracy.ca, we are always looking for volunteers. We offer online and in-person opportunities. So if you have a busy life, you'd like to contribute, but you're not certain that you'll be able to travel to a community center to deliver programming, for example, we offer one-on-one tutoring opportunities with children and with adults, so online. So that's very convenient for people who are in the workforce and maybe have less time. But if you would like to give back to your community in person, please go see on our website. There's lots of opportunities in all major cities of Canada and all across the north as well.
And Melanie, who typically comes to game night?
So game night typically is full of people that care about literacy, first of all. And the majority of people are from the financial sector in Toronto. So I think if some people are in the industry, if they come to us, to the event, they should be recognizing a few familiar faces. So it's a great occasion to, yes, have fun and raise funds for literacy, but great networking opportunity as well.
Absolutely. Melanie, this conversation, it's an eye-opener. Thank you so much for your incredibly valuable time and insight. It's been great to get this chance to talk to you.
Pierre, I can't thank you enough for having me today. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I can't wait to have fun and play games on March 5th in your company.
Yes, see you on March 5th at game night.